Hello everyone, this is a short little video on putting together a wood stove in a four-season room. This is a bit much for most do-it-yourselfers, I'll admit, and if you feel nervous about any part of this, please stop and have a professional do it. I'm just showing the installed stove because I'm not a professional, and I'm just going to give you some tips. So here you can see the tile floor. There's also the tile backer board underneath it, which is concrete kind of stuff. So between the two of them, that suffices for the type of surface you have to put a stove on. The stove is also positioned in such a way that there's enough distance between it and the next nearest flammable object. You'll see that in the installation instructions for the stove you buy. This is about as close as you can get, probably about 12 inches away. Same thing with the pipe going up through. That all has to be a certain distance away. And then what positions it specifically is that you've got rafters coming down. And you've got to have it obviously in between the rafters, not through one of them. So that's also going to dictate where this thing lands. You have to think up through all of that before you decide. Now, I built this room knowing that this stove would go in there, so I had the perfect spot there for the rafters to stick it on through. So now it's a matter of the pieces. I'm going to show you here that this is from, you can see, the Supervent company. This was given to me by the local big box store. See, these are all the various options for installation through the wall, up through the top. You can see mine in the bottom left corner there, just going straight up through a single layer of roofing. There's nothing else in between, like an attic space, which is going to make it more difficult. And you can see it has the numbers that correspond to the parts over on the right, and you just start racking them all up as needed. So I'm going to go through those more or less one at a time. I found that I needed, this is a piece right here on top of the stove's circular vent in order to get that to then the stove to connect to the stove pipe. And this is one section here. This is the expensive stuff, about 50 bucks per section, but it also allows you to get closer to walls than the 5-inch. So this is double insulated. Then you go up to the next one here. And up on top here, that is what would be sticking out the roof. So that piece there is going all the way through the roof and then extending out. I used stove paint to paint it black, otherwise it's a shiny metal. And then you can see this box-like thing on the top here. That's what you need to put in to give you enough kind of space between your rafters and other things. So that does look like a box. It's got a circle on the bottom, obviously. You have to position it, and then cut it off at the top so it obviously doesn't stick up through your roof. So all that has to be done beforehand. And there is no wiggle room whatsoever in these things. Everything has to be exactly in position. There is nothing, again, you can go back and forth on this. So you really have to start with, here's the stove, you're going up straight up, and exactly where you're going to go through your roof all has to be figured out beforehand. There's tricks to do that, punching through with a drill beforehand to try to get yourself, and then maybe a plumb bob from that, through your roof to figure things out. So that's necessary. And you can see it looks like these are upside down here, but that's the upside of the outer piece of this double-walled stovepipe. You can see how it fits into the bottom piece here. A couple of these screws were completely unusable in terms of what they're going to do for you. You can see it gives you a little arrow up to help you out, that's the way it goes. So that's that part. Now we're going to go outside and I'll show you what's going on out here. I have a lousy editing, so I'm just going to head right up the ladder to the top here. Try to keep this out of the sun. And we'll look at it this way. So now you can see this is the top right here of the piece we saw down below that I painted. You have to buy This piece here, they come in two different types depending on the slope of your roof. This is obviously for a very shallow roof. And all this has to be caulked in place with as much caulk as you can possibly imagine. Then, backing up, you can see I have one section on top of the section going through the roof, and then a 2-foot section on top of that. And then there's the cap on top of that. I also bought these supports. So this whole thing is not quite 6 feet, almost 6 feet. Now, of course, the rule of thumb is you go down from the top down about 2 feet and spin around. And right there, that thing actually is about 11 feet away. They ask for 10 feet to be correct. So that's from 2 feet down, and then spin your radius around from there 10 feet, and you're good. And it has to be at least 3 feet above your roof line. Now, this is not ideal because I've got a higher roof behind me, but that's just the way it is. You can see these were put into the roof like that, again with ample caulk all over. And back to this. Now, the best way to do this is to rip off all your shingles completely from this entire area back to, about a foot above. Don't try to shove it in there like you'll see some videos do. Again, you need to be able to have the space to figure out exactly where things are and where it's going to come up through. It's almost impossible. Plus, this piece is supposed to have a ring, and it does in this case, a ring around it at the bottom that sits on the bottom of that box. That's to help support the weight. So you can't push this thing in. You have to be able to shove down this stovepipe first, and then push this thing down on top of it. So it can't come up through, it's got to come down. And again, you have to have just boatloads of caulk all over it, making sure that you're not getting any kind of leakage anywhere around here. My first attempt failed in that regard. The first rainstorm, a few little drops came down. So that's how it's all done. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you.